check it out. Well, today we've got the 87 Saleen. I got a really cool kit here from 417 Fox. The guy's name is actually Michael Johnson. Any of you been following Mustangs for years know there's a Michael Johnson that does the 5.0 Mustangs and all that, and Mustang Hub. But anyway, today we got this really cool kit from 417 Fox. See, they're made in the USA. It's not some of those Chinese knockoffs. This thing is really neat. What it does, it allows you to take your HVAC controls, which are currently on top and your radio on the bottom, and allows you to flip them. So you get to see your screen better. Your screen's up higher. Let me show you what this looks like. We'll go over here to the car. And like every Fox body, you got the HVAC up top and the radio down at the bottom. Now I've already updated to the Double Din style with this Metra kit that installs it like that, which is pretty cool. But I thought it'd be even better to have this moved up and the controls moved down, and that's what this is going to do. It's gonna drop in here like that once I get it all moved around. And now you'll see the screen's gonna be higher up, easier to view. So when I go and put it reverse from my rear view camera, it's gonna be even better. But I can't wait to get this installed. It's gonna be really trick. Something very subtle, but does a big impact. So I'll get this turned on so you can see it. So the first thing we're gonna do, we get this kit. I've already pulled the tab on it, so we'll get to see what comes out of this kit. And look at that, he even printed off some instructions, which make it nice. Anything else? Yep. All right, nothing else in there. Gotta make sure, because part of what we're doing here, we need to inventory it. These are the side brackets. Then we've got these screws. Whoop, I just dropped spacer. So we've got two of these white spacers. We have a black spacer. We have another black spacer. And we've got 4 screws. We've got the Velcro here, 4 pieces of Velcro. And then we've got the adhesion promoter when we get it ready to stick it all down. But this gives you an idea of the hardware. These are the pieces that you're going to get. And then we'll look in here. I bet you he has a link. Yep. Install at your own risk. You click this, you go to his videos, and go from there. But I've already watched the videos, really neat stuff. So I'm gonna go in and show you how this works, how it looks.
Satisfy customers, but there's always been room for improvement, right? So I have made a major improvement you guys are going to want to see. So what I'm going to do today, guys, is I'm going to install the very first one to ever be installed of this new version.
All right, the first thing to do is go in here in your car, reach up under here and push. And what we're doing, we're unhooking this. See little clips, just want to break it. This is brand new. It's a shame I bought this brand new because my other one had holes in it, but whatever, I'm not gonna need it anymore. Put it over there for now. The next thing you want to do is remove your radio. I've got Phillips screws in here, so cordless makes that nice. Oh. Sounds like my bit's a little worn there. Put those up here out of the way. Okay, so now I can take my cover off. That's the radio cover. Now you can see here's the radio, and I'm gonna squeeze that out. It's a tight fit with the screws on the side there, front and back. All right, and we'll unhook things here. All right, and then I need to go in here and what I'm working with here. Unplug all this. Okay. this over here to the side. This is my USB cable, which I got plugged in here. So let's go ahead. Sorry. Get this out of here. I can rerun it later. Okay, now that's out of the way. Move our wiring harness out of the way here, so now it's nice and open. Now I need to take these screws out. Mine's missing one. I think it was stripped. And go in here like this and remove these. Real simple operation. I'll get all those out. A trick here, and you loosen the screws. If you take a magnet like this, you can pull the screws right out without dropping them. Just a little tidbit. Once it's out, you can start pulling this down. We want to unplug all this stuff here, like so. And then on the back of your vacuum, there's some little nuts, so you need to loosen those up and pull that off. And then I like to take the little screw off of there. It's a 1/4 inch. Pull the knob off the front, and then you can pull the whole HVAC device off, just so it's out of the way, make it easier for you. And now you can see what we've got in here. They'll tell you using a double din, sometimes this bracket can be in the way, depends on your radio. Before I get too far, I'm gonna look at my cables here, see if I need to unwind or do anything to make them drop down. And then once I have that established, basically sliding these wires down like so, just so I can get into everything here. And what I can see, there's a vacuum that goes over here. That's this one. It's kind of in the way of this wiring harness and this cable, so I might pop it loose and I can drop it over and under this bracket on the bottom.
So before we get started, one thing you're going to have to do is you will need to modify your existing HVAC. These tabs here that actually screw to these mounting points are actually right here on the side, and they mount just like this. So when you pull this off, this is how this is going to look. These ears here will need to come off because they will interfere with the relocation of your HVAC to this portion of your console. So what you'll have to do, you'll have to cut that off and then grind that down smooth. I just used a Dremel and grind that down smooth so you'll have a flush mounting point so you can attach that to your center console down here. Okay, so the only other modification you need to do to your HVAC is actually where these are heat riveted in. You can see where I've already done it on this one rivet. This other side, you'll need to drill that out and make it a hole so you can put a screw through there, because that is going to be your attachment point for here. So our next step is going to be making a minor modification to your center console. You'll see this has this lip right here. We're going to need to trim that lip back off flush with this portion of the console. Now you can leave about 1 inch of that left up towards the top, and I'll show you here in just a second because we don't need to go up that far. And the reason why is you can see this is where your vacuum lines hook up on this side. It sticks over a little farther, and that prevents this from centering up if that lip is there, because this will protrude into that lip. So I've just got my Dremel tool here, and I'm just going to go ahead and buzz that right on off. And guys, I don't think we have to trim all of that all the way on this side. Let's check and see. Now guys, if you'll notice, these two bottom tabs here are actually going to rest flat on the bottom part of this center console.
I designed this bezel that if you are able to mount this where those rest flat, that makes your measuring a whole lot easier, because now that is actually in the position that it's going to be in for this to line up with the holes perfectly. Alright guys, for demonstration purposes, I have this 87 to 89. As you can see, I've already cut our plastic part of the center console, and also in this case, I've actually cut the dash support that goes across the back. Just remember, as long as you stay with a head unit that is less than 4 inches in total overall depth, this does not have to get cut. So make that in consideration when you are choosing your head unit. If you'll look, if you pull your harness down just a little bit, if you take some of this wrap off of here, that's going to give you a little bit of slack for all of your HVAC connections. In most cases that I've seen, there is no need to extend any of your HVAC connections unless you don't do this, and in some and also depends on the head unit. The further depth the head unit is, you'll of course want to get these slid over to the side to get your head unit around it, but sometimes there's just not going to be enough depth. This would be a perfect opportunity to go ahead and put your trim bezel in place and go ahead and do some test measuring and test fitting. So what you'll want to do is measure what the depth is up to the metal bracket that is in the center back here, and go ahead and measure that to the front of your faceplate. If you bought a shallow depth double din head unit, you may not need to remove this metal bracket, but if you haven't, like the one that we're installing here, I was able to tell pretty quick, since my unit is about 6 inches deep, that I'm going to have to go ahead and remove that, and that's what I'll be doing here on this next step. Alright guys, so for our next step here, what we want to do is make sure we've got this positioned exactly where we want it. So you want to go ahead and double check your alignment with your bezel here. So now what we want to do is go ahead and get our mounting holes. Now to mount this, guys, what you're going to need to have, this is not included in the kit. You can use your screw of choice. What I found that works best is you can take some 1 inch or 1.25 inch number 6 drywall screws. Works perfect. And you're also going to need to reuse 2 of the HVAC screws for spacers. So here's how that's going to work. So to keep this thing from rocking, guys, I'm including a spacer with each kit that goes at the top that will be right here, okay? And that's going to keep your spacing distance correct from here, and that's also going to keep this from rocking. But we need just a little bit of a spacer right here. So what we're going to do is actually take one of these and just screw it in right into here, and that's going to give you your spacer that you need for the back of your HVAC in this portion to rest against. So that's going to give you a good stable surface versus it still trying to tilt on you once you get this top screw in. So guys, to put your screw spacer in here, we're going to need to go ahead and make a mark that's about between 1 7/8 and 2 inches, and center that up. And it's not super crucial, but somewhere right in that area that we're going to use. I'm going to take a 3/32 drill bit, put it right here in the middle on my mark, and we're going to be able to reuse the existing stock screws. And we're going to go ahead and take our drywall screw. Now I only used a 1/16 inch bit here because I want to make sure I get enough bite in this plastic that I can. We'll go ahead and get those threaded. Alright guys, so now we've done all the measurements, we got everything ready to go, we got everything pre-drilled, we're ready to go ahead and get this thing mounted. Now one tip I can give you is you've got your spacers here, and those things can kind of be a little booger to hold. Also, don't forget to reuse your original mounting fasteners, and that also gives one more bit of support to keep this HVAC control from rocking back here. Now these are pretty easy to line up, remember, so you've got your lower tabs here, they just pretty much rest on the top of this. Now every car can be just a little bit different, so you always want to test fit it first, because of course you can always add a different hole. So always start with one hole first, then go from there, test fit your bezel, just make sure everything's lining up. Because I'm a little bit OCD, I want it to fit perfect. Guys, I can tell you, you definitely want to put this in first. Get your test fitting done, make sure everything lines up the way you want. As of course you can see, That lines up just fine. Now you'll notice we have 3 mounting locations. We're actually not going to use the top 2. Those are actually for your 90 to 93 cars. We're only going to use these bottom 2 for 87 to 89 cars. So we're going to use the spacer in this portion here, and the bottom hole will actually be for the face adjustment. You'll see what I'm talking about. So same tip that I showed you before, we're going to take a little bit of tape, put it around the installation screws. We're going to slide our spacer on there. That's going to keep that spacer from falling off as we go to install the head unit. So guys, as you can see, we are going to reuse the original HVAC lower mounting locations. Of course, the top one with one of those is broken, this one. The top 2 will not be reused. That's where it used to mount here, but we're going to mount in those 2 lower locations. So to ensure that we're going to be flush with the face of your HVAC, we need to go ahead and add our adjustment screws, which are also going to be stabilization screws. And that is pretty dang flush. Now that we've got everything adjusted, guys, now we just want to make sure our trim bezel, before we get it mounted and attached, we want to go ahead and test fit it. Slide that in there. And we're just going to make sure we don't have any flex here. Make sure that is going to be touching our mounting locations. We want to make sure that is touching the mounting locations here and also here at the bottom. Cleaned up. So we're going to take our wider mounting strips first. This is industrial strength Velcro. And we're going to go ahead and be ready for it to stick, because it's really going to stick on there. Go ahead and firmly press this. One note, if it's really cold outside, you definitely don't want to stick this on when it's really cold. It's recommended that it be above 70 degrees when you attach this. So you either want to have some type of heat source or heat that up before attaching it. And right to the top of that one. Now we're ready to take the other side off, and let's get this thing mounted.
All right, just to show you the finished product. There we go, reverse camera is engaged, works great. And the radio, there we go, looks a kill. So I think it looks really nice. Let me shut the door. Let me turn off my lights here so you can see it. And then we turn on the parking lights. Radio dim, see how the lights come on down there? Perfect. And from the driver's seat here, when you're looking at everything, that looks great. Again, put it in reverse. That's gonna be a lot easier to see now. But the fit and finish is really good. You can see it's got an even gap all the way around down here at the bottom and at the top. I had to really finagle it to get this to line up. These actually lined up no problem down here. But getting the radio to line up, it was a little low and I had to keep messing with it. But I'll insert Michael's video that shows you how to do that. 8789 is a little different from 993, but overall, this is it. It's installed and looks exactly like I wanted. It looks really modern. I want to show you, the only thing I had to do different, and I had to let it dry overnight, was, let me turn this up. Had to extend my yellow vacuum line. So this is the one that goes up here to the solenoid up under the dash, and it goes from defrost to floor to vent. And what I found was mine was just a little short by the fact of a couple inches. So what I did was I took a vacuum line. It's just slightly bigger than what this line was. And I cut the factory line, I put this in between, and I put super glue on the end just to make sure it was not gonna leak or anything. So now that that's dried overnight, I can go in here, I can plug it in, and we'll be good to go. But this is the finished product. I think it looks great. If I wanted to be all OCD like I am, you see how the top's out just a tick on each side. I could go and loosen the bracket on the sides, and I could actually tilt it a little bit. But I'm gonna leave it like this because it's such a pain to get this right for the cover to fit on there. But it is Velcroed, and I can pull this and pull it off and redo it if I want to. But for now, I'm gonna leave it. I just don't want to keep messing with it. But like I say, you can see it's flush down here, and it's just got a little bit here on the side, both sides. It's even, so at least it's even. But anyway, hope you enjoy. This thing's really cool, and again, sitting in the driver's seat, the gear stick doesn't get in way of the screen.